Hello and welcome to the Confidence Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Rayleigh. Today we have the amazing Allison and Jazz joining us. Thank you very much for being here and for being a part of my podcast and sharing your journey. I like to talk to interesting people, and obviously, as you know, we're in Barbados and we met at the gym.
We did.
So I meet a lot of really interesting people at the gym, and I find that you find a lot of like-minded people in that sort of environment. So when we got chatting, I thought there's something really nice about you guys, your energy, and I really wanted to find out more about you and share what you do with my audience, because I just love like the synergy between you as well. So
Yeah. Do you know what? We've only actually been together for a year.
Yeah.
Not even, just under a year.
And I think that's amazing. You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
It's like, or are you still in the honeymoon period?
No. Do you know what it is?
We've had people ask us how long we've been married for.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Actually.
Yeah. But I think it all comes down to just, when someone's got the same energy as you, like you're saying. Me and Allison we've got real similar energy, and we were both, I think, at similar points in our lives when we met last year for different reasons.
Yeah.
But shall I just give you a quick rundown
tell us how you met.
Well, it's a fun story. We basically met. I've always wanted to live back in Barbados. I grew up here when I was like 4 to 10, and it was in the last maybe 6 years. I'm 36 now. So when I was about 30, I realised how much living in Barbados had an influence on me as a person and my character and who I am today. And I think the biggest reason was because it's so different to living in England or somewhere else in the Western world like America, Canada, Europe. It's such a different way of life, and the values are different. So when I grew up here, we lived in the end of a little gap. We had the freezer, next door neighbours had the fridge, the people opposite had the TV, the doors were always open. I'd be about 5 years old, and I'd wake up in the morning before my mum. I'd leave the house and my mum would get up and she'd be like, "Oh, has anyone seen Jazz this morning?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, he's out at sea with a fisherman, he's fishing." Amazing. And I think it was that kind of being brought up in that way and in that culture and that community, that once I got older, and don't get me wrong, I love England, I lived in London, had a great time in my 20s. But as I was getting a bit older, I was like, you know what, there's a different way to life where I don't have to be stuck on and I haven't ever really been on a hamster wheel like that, but I have done it in certain parts. But where I was like, this isn't. There's another way to life. Do you know what I mean? I don't have to be stuck in this routine and always like head down, walking fast. Everything's in a rush. So since then, I've always wanted to come back to Barbados, and because I'm an actor, it was always not really possible because I have to audition and I have to be, I have to, But then lockdown happened, and when lockdown happened, all castings went online, and that's when we came over to Barbados. I came here last year for a holiday with me, my mum, and my brother, and we came for 4 weeks. And I'd had a tough year. I think my dad passed away, my uncle passed away, and another family member passed away. And at the end of those 4 weeks, I was like, you know what, Mum, I think, because I'd just started auditioning online, I was like, you know what, I think I'm just going to extend for another week or two and just really chill. And at that point, that's where I met Allison. And Allison, I'll let you tell how you came to be on the islands, and then we'll bring it all back together.
Yeah, so it's an interesting journey, but I came in November 2020 with my daughter. She was doing online school. At the time, she was 9. And knowing what Canadian winters are like, I just thought, you know what, let's just go to Barbados. We'll do the same thing, but in Barbados. We'll just be there for 4 months. Fast forward, Canada cancels all flights back and forth to the Caribbean.
Of course,
So I'm obviously staying.
Didn't have a choice.
I mean, come on. At this stage, I think I enrolled her into school here. So she finished off her grades 4-year here. And she had just left the island to spend some time with her dad. We had been here for 11 months. And I was actually meant to go to the UK to visit somebody that I had met. But we had met during lockdown, and it wasn't quite, like, there was something that was missing, and I don't know what it was. It was just great guy. And we got along great. I mean, I think we hung out a few times, but not really because everything was under lockdown. So I was going there to properly really meet him. And I realized this entire time my bank card has 08 21 is the expiry date. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get a new bank card.
Because we were in August.
Yeah, so we're in August. So I was waiting for my bank card to come through FedEx. And literally in that 1 week, because I was thinking, something kept me delaying on the flight and the flight plans. And I thought, let me just spend a little time here without having to do play dates and drop off to school and all that. And in that week, that's when. Yeah,
that's the week where I was saying to my mum, you know what, Mum, I think I'm just going to extend for a bit longer. So I was on my quarantine, and because obviously when I came out here last year, everything in England had just opened up. Everyone was going to festivals. Everything was back.
What month was it?
That was August last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I think the first festivals were happening again.
Yeah.
And then we came here, and when we came here, it was, there was curfews.
9 p.m.
And and you had to. And I had to quarantine for 5 days. And I was like, what? So while I was on my quarantine, Allison was staying in a villa next to the hotel, or a house next to the hotel. And so she would come into the hotel and use the pool. And I was sat in my room on my balcony, and I was like, I was sharing my apartment room thing with my brother. And I was like, yo, bro, I have got to meet this girl. This girl is looking fire. So I was just there, and in a non-creepy way, but I was
Don't lie.
And then so I was there in my quarantine, and she just kept coming back and forth over the days. And then day 5 came, I was off quarantine, and she came back, and she always came in singing. And I was like, who is this girl? So she was sat at the end of the pool. And I swear, I know this is going to sound really cheesy, a lot of this, but none of this was planned at all. I just wanted to chat to this girl. And I'm not really always confident I am confident like that, but I would never normally just go up to someone who, it's easy to do when you don't really fancy the person.
Yeah.
Like it's a bit of banter, do you know what I mean? But I
You felt something.
Yeah, I felt something, and I was like, I've got to go and chat to her. So she was at the end of the pool on the phone to one of her family, and I was just in the pool on my own, just like waiting for this conversation to happen.
Trying to engineer it.
And someone had left like a miniature American football in there, so I was just playing with that, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to chuck it to the other end of the pool.
Oh, you didn't?
I did. Chucked it to the other end of the pool, thought, let me have a little swim down there. She gets off the phone, and obviously I know the listeners won't be able to see, but Allison, she looks like a creative.
Yeah.
And my background is I'm a producer, so I've produced music videos, commercials, and feature films, and I'm an actor. So I said to Allison, I was like, what is it you do? You look like a creative. And what did you say?
I said, what do creatives look like?
And I was like, hot. Creatives look hot.
So it made me laugh. Actually, it still makes me laugh.
Yeah, and then I was like, how long are you on the island for? Because I didn't know all of this backstory before.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm here because I thought she may have been here on holiday. She was like, I'm here for another week. And that's because she was meant to be flying off to meet this other guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's cool. A week's long enough to take you out on a date then. and then that's how our relationship started. And from there, obviously I was meant to stay for another couple of weeks, ended up staying for like 4 months, which brought us to somewhere around end of October.
Yeah.
And I said to Alison, I was like, you know what, I've got to go back to England. My mum's moving house, she needs me to help her. I need to work. And Alison said that.
I was like, I'll be of service. I'm used to, I love to be of service and to help other people. And I don't think either one of us wanted it to just be there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll come for a week. I was meant to go there anyways. I mean, better for me to go, and I want to help your mom, and let's do this. So it was 1 week that I had planned on being there.
Yeah, you booked a ticket for a week.
And then we ended up, I ended up extending for 4 months.
Spent Christmas
4 months seems to be a theme.
Yeah,
A
it
week
was
and 4
around
months.
about that. It was around about that. But yeah, you ended up, so you came for the week, ended up helping my mum move, and then basically stayed. Spent Christmas with me and my family.
Then you flew back in January, didn't you?
No, we both flew back out here in January to meet her parents, her mum and her stepdad, and her daughter, and that was really beautiful. That was amazing. And then I had to go back to England to work. I think I got some acting work.
Yeah.
And on that trip, so this was the first time we'd been apart for maybe 8. No, not quite 8 months. It's probably 6 or 7 months at this point. And whilst we were in England the first time, we went to a hip hop brunch party in London, which was great fun. 90s, early 2000s hip hop.
So much fun.
It was great fun. And in that time, because this was the first time we'd sort of been apart for a bit, and I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to live back in Barbados. Alison wants to live in Barbados.
Yeah.
And I was like, we have to figure it, like, because it's all been a bit holiday romance, but not
Yeah.
holiday romance. It's just, we just clicked straight away and our energies were the same. And I was like, we need to figure a way. Obviously, we've got a long-term plan. We've got plans of where we both want to be in life.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll
Talk about that.
get on to
Yeah.
that. But at this moment, you know, we've just been together for maybe 6 or 7 months. And we know that we want to be in Barbados. We're great here, individually and together. I think being somewhere where there's calm, where there's peace, where there's sunshine, where there's a sea, where there's not so much of a fast pace, where you're able to disconnect a bit, really.
You can connect with people on a different level
You
here
can-
as opposed
yeah.
to like in the rush of London or, you
Yeah.
know, where people don't look at each other.
No.
You know, like that community you were describing when you
Yeah.
were growing up here. We used to have that when I was growing up in London.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't see that anymore.
No.
Yeah, you don't see it.
So being able to come to places like this where you do still see it, I think it's a really nice thing. Like community.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference
Yeah.
to how you feel as well. But because we're trying to figure out, you know, we know that, like, we were going to get married in the first couple of weeks of meeting each other, no joke.
We were.
But we didn't have our birth certificates because we weren't meant, like, neither one
You
of us
weren't
was meant to.
supposed to be,
Yeah,
yeah.
we weren't meant to be
Yeah.
here. But that's how we clicked. I know it sounds crazy,
So
but
when is the wedding?
do you know what, the wedding's probably going to be next year.
True.
And so we were figuring out, how do we make this work for us here, because we are going to be in Barbados. And as a quick thing, because we need to be making money whilst we're here,
Yeah.
was like, look, you know what, Barbados has got loads of people at the minute who are there here on a welcome stamp, which is for anyone.
Digital
That's
nomads.
where I came.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those who are listening who don't know, do you want it, because you on a welcome stamp?
I was
Or
on
you
the welcome stamp, so being able to have a visa to work remotely for
Yeah.
12 months somewhere like this
Yeah.
is absolutely amazing. So, because I used to live in, well, I moved back to Mallorca,
Yeah.
but you were able to just move there,
Yeah.
and it was fine, like pre-Brexit. It's different now.
Oh yeah, of course.
But to come to somewhere like this, you need to, you know, you can't take a Bayesian job.
Mm.
It's very difficult to get a visa, work
Yeah.
permit. So the offering of the welcome stamp was phenomenal because
Yeah.
I met so many people on it as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Just wanting to experience something different from life.
Yeah.
It's a really nice thing that they put. Yeah, like-minded
Like-minded.
people.
Yeah, it was a great thing, and I know that they did it because obviously Barbados is a small island, and majority of their income comes from tourism.
Tourism,
But then
exactly.
obviously with COVID, tourism really suffered, so then they came up with this welcome stamp idea,
genius.
which was genius, and it's brought so many people here. So we were saying, look, there's loads of people on the island who are here now from New York, Canada, Germany, Belgium, France, England, Toronto, like all over the place. And they come with a certain level of, not expectations, they come with events that they've been to that they're used to from their hometowns. And when you come here, there isn't really that going on. And you can go on a catamaran and go and swim with the turtles on a shared charter.
Which
Yeah.
is pretty
Which
cool.
is
Yeah,
cool,
it is cool.
which is really cool. If you're here on holiday, great experience.
Yeah.
Once,
But if you live here,
You need more.
you need more.
Yeah.
So we was like, you know what? I was in England, Allison was here, and obviously we're talking and Skyping or video calling. And I was like, you know what? Let's do hip hop brunch on the catamarans. We'll get a DJ,
Yeah.
we'll get saxophonists, bongo players, all of that. So we was like, yeah, let's do it.
That sounds amazing.
So we came up with the idea that day. The next day, maybe it was 2 days later,
Website.
the website was live.
Yeah.
We work well together because Alison's a perfectionist. Like, she's super perfectionist. I'm not. But if Allison was doing it on her own, the website would have never gone up because
Yeah.
it needs to be
It's
perfect.
a bit of yin and yang.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you pull him forward, you pull her forward.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah,
pull him back.
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
that's
exactly.
nice.
Yeah.
So we had the idea today. 2 days later, the website was live. Whilst the website was live, there were problems with it, obviously, but we were just fixing them as we were going.
Yeah.
You know, we're on different time zones. We're up late, trying to sort it all
Yeah.
out. But the point is we just pulled the trigger on it. We made the website live.
Yeah, you took action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I flew back to Barbados maybe 4 or 5 days later,
Yeah.
and we did our first event a couple of days after I got back. So in
Amazing.
the space of
So
that
you
2 weeks, and we
literally
sold
2
out.
weeks, sold
Yeah,
out.
we sold out. People loved it. We did another one. We did Soul House on the catamaran. Videographers, bongo players,
Nice.
saxophonists. You know, we made it a real event.
Yeah.
And that was
also sold out. That was a
that
really
also
good one,
sold
too.
out. And this isn't. We're not. This was.
We're not like club promoters. We're
Yeah.
not promoters.
no.
This is not like our lane. I think,
This is not our lane
I
at
think
all.
why we ended up thriving in that regard was because we thought of things that we love to do and
Yeah.
events that we would like to be at, and instead of waiting around for someone else to think of it so we can go, we just thought, let's
Yeah.
just create it.
Well, that's the
and-
problem with a lot of people, they're like, they want to do this, but they won't go and do it. They won't they won't even have the idea. Don't take action on it. So that's part of what we're doing here this week.
Yeah.
Is making sure people have like, they get these ideas out of their head, put pen to paper, and then then they have to go take action and make their dream a reality.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the only way, and a lot of that will come from fear.
Yeah.
You know, being either being afraid of failure, or it could manifest itself in many different ways.
Afraid of not being perfect.
Yeah, afraid. Yeah. I think you're. I think you're.
It's better to be done than perfect. You know.
Yeah. And you're the king of that. He's like, it's done, isn't it? And I'm like,
But not everything is going to be perfect, and you have to put yourself out there. The only reason I was telling that story is because we met, and everything happened so quickly. And a year ago, I was not in Barbados. I mean, I just arrived in Barbados for a holiday to just chill. Now I'm here. We've got a house together here.
Yeah.
We've got a business together here. And I'm literally living a dream at the moment.
Still working
and nothing's perfect. I still don't have a plan, plan.
You need to come to my retreat.
Yeah. I mean, and for anyone listening, we came down here. We came here a few days ago, didn't we? At the start of your retreat, or a couple of days into your retreat, Allison was doing a yoga class for all your students, and I have to say, this where you've brought everyone at Monkey Hill is like, it's just the most beautiful location. And from what you were saying earlier, it sounds like everyone's doing really well with putting their plans together.
Going through like transformations and. It's so important to, I think one of the things that you said that I completely resonates with me is, so often you have these amazing ideas, but then they just, I don't want to say they die, because do ideas ever die? But there's nothing if you don't take that action. And I think a setting like this and really incorporating, health, which is so important. It's a big part of my journey, and your triangle, your trifecta, as you, if you will. I think it's just so important, and to do that in a space like this, I mean, you've got to think afterwards, like, what can't you achieve?
Exactly.
So I think that this week is certainly set for transformation for your.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it is. It's getting out of the day to day, coming somewhere like truly inspirational.
Yeah.
So that when you go back home, you're like, well, hold on a minute, I want more.
Yeah.
I need to make these things happen, so I can go back next year.
Yeah.
But then, like, have that added accountability and.
Yeah.
You know, like when you wake up every day to a view like this, and you incorporate the health. We've had a couple of guest speakers this week, and they've both, like Gerald Ratner and Neville Wright.
Well, amazing.
And they both spoke about the importance of health. They're both in like their 70s. I think Neville's younger than that. I can't remember.
Yeah. Quick edit.
No, Neville, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Because they've both been on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
And they were saying about the things that they do for their health and how it keeps them, sharp.
Yeah.
And it's like, this as well, because obviously you led the yoga class. So do you want to share a bit about
my yoga
your
journey?
Yeah.
Well,
It's an interesting journey.
it is, because I think so often we come to where we're meant to be through negative experiences, or what really could be, something that could really like break you down or be the start of a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And for me, my journey with yoga happened after physical injury. For some reason in my life, a lot of my lessons come through physical injury.
Okay.
I think I'm going. And it's like, instead of me slowing down and doing that kind of thing for myself, knowing mentally I need to slow down, it's like, boom, all of a sudden I'm hit with something and I have to slow down.
It's like the manifestation thing.
Yeah,
It's
so
your body telling you.
Yeah, my body is something. I mean, obviously, I've known that I needed to slow down, but at the time, being a single mom, being entirely responsible financially for my child, and mortgage this, the same hamster wheel that we're talking about, and I tore my ACL in 2016, and after that knee injury and knee surgery and the rehabilitation that you need to do with that. They turned a piece of my hamstring into my ACL, so I basically had to relearn how to walk.
Yeah.
The top of my leg did not talk to the bottom at all.
That must have been tough.
Yeah, it was. And actually, during that time, I met and somebody else that had gone through the surgery, and something she said to me stood out, which was, you need to be really careful not to get depressed, because a lot of people can get down.
Yeah.
You can't move. You're having to ice and take basically oscillate between icing your knee, taking the ice off. You can't walk around. And so, I could imagine why people would get depressed in these scenarios. And at the time, actually, this is a bit of a sidebar, but at the time, I was prescribed Oxycontin. And that was back in 2016 at the beginning of that whole pharmaceutical thing. I don't know if I should mention any names, but I think everybody's very well aware at this stage of the synthetic heroin that basically Oxycontin is. And I remember taking one. My daughter was 3 at the time. I remember taking one of them and saying to my doctor, I don't feel comfortable taking this. Like, I feel itchy, I feel hot. I definitely didn't feel okay to drive. And then at the time, cannabis was legal in Canada for medicinal purposes.
Yeah.
So I went that route, and I'm so thankful. I mean, obviously everybody's got different opinions about cannabis, but now
that
it's
worked for
completely
you.
legal in Canada. And, I just went into and they said, what are your symptoms? I'm like, I'm experiencing pain. I want something that I could have while I'm during the daytime. So I'm like cognitively there. I don't necessarily want to feel high. I just want the benefit of having pain relief without having to worry about like an addiction or anything else later on down the road. So that was that. But after my second knee surgery, I had another one, and then I had a foot surgery. And I remember being on crutches for in and around the time, like about 2 years, all added up. And I went to a chiropractor. And I thought, something's going on with my back. I was having sciatic nerve pain. I'm still having trouble for work. And he basically said I had stage 2 degeneration in my spine. And my spine looked like that of a 60 to 70-year-old. And if I didn't do this particular length of treatment for the next year, going sometimes 2-3 times a week, that I would end up basically I'm really my body is going to be like. And I thought, he said, all of my patients though that do these stretches that I recommend, all of them have 80% better recovery than my other ones. So you do need to do these stretches. I looked at the stretches and I thought, I'm doing yoga.
Yeah.
And that was my beginning of my joke.
And you said you didn't actually go ahead with...
I never went ahead with the chiropractic treatment. I thought, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this. And it changed my life, because I started off, of course, doing the recommended physio. And after, I think your yoga journey or whatever your fitness journey is you start it for one reason, but there are so many other reasons why you continue.
And it evolves.
You might want to start working out because you want to look fit, or you want to look like an archetype. But then when you realize how you feel, and for me, yoga is so much more off the mat. I mean, from there, it's really reconnected me with my spirituality. It's reconnected me with just knowing that we're all connected. And there's so much, even when I see people that I don't really care for, there's so much in me I still see in them.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is what I think is important that we forget. When we're dealing with humans in our day-to-day lives, they're us. We are each other.
We are one.
We're a reflection. We're of each other. And so, for me, yoga was just a natural progression. I'd been a fitness instructor in the past. And at one stage, I remember when I went from doing the dance classes to teaching, and I remember that kind of switch when you realize, oh, well, it's, it can sometimes take a bit of the joy away.
Yeah.
But I love yoga so much that I thought I need to share this with other people, because if I hadn't had it, then I don't know that I would be where I'm at, where we, because it forced me to kind of go inward and to
live a different way.
Yeah. Meditate, focus on other things apart from just, the material. There's so many other dimensions that we need to.
But I think it also gives a discipline.
Yeah, it does.
I know you're better at it than me, but I mean, you have a morning routine. Do you know what I mean? You get up.
So important.
The first thing you put in your body has to be something good for you. Hot water, lemon,
Yep.
neem tea out here.
Yeah.
You spend a bit of time, then you do your yoga, then you meditate.
Yeah.
And that's the start of your...
Yeah,
Start the day.
You know what? I read this book by Robin Sharma called The 5 a.m. Club, and I was never a morning person.
No.
Even in university, I would do the 24-hour library, and I would go be there. I would be the one at midnight, doing the studying. And so, when I read his first book, which was The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and then this book, which is called The 5 a.m. Club, talked about setting up a bulletproof morning routine.
Yep.
And he's an executive coach. He coaches, all sorts of people in Fortune 500 companies and blah, blah, blah. But I thought, you know, there's got to be something to this, because my morning routine at the time was just like barely getting myself out of bed. Okay, like, and I'm doing it for my daughter. So
Yeah.
I know that lunches have been made the night before, so I can make it. I do everything the night before, so I can make, you know, just as quick from that period of me waking up to getting to school.
Yeah.
Like, I could just make that as quick as possible. But I just thought there's got to be something to this. So he talks about starting your morning with some sort of exercise. So 20 minutes of exercise, 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of journaling. So
Yeah.
I've sort of taken that and sort of adapted it into my own routine, because for me 20 minutes is just not enough. I would like to do a little bit longer. So and so I'll do something like you know, something that's super cardio, maybe a fast flow, and then I'll do some yoga afterwards. It's a bit more gentle.
I read that book.
Yeah.
I tried the 5 a.m. thing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But the routine thing in the morning, life is so much better when
Yeah.
you have that good start to the day, because it puts you in a great frame of mind.
Exactly.
It boosts your confidence.
And especially at times where you're not 100% sure what your direction is.
Yeah.
Because even just getting up, having that routine, whether it's just getting in the shower, brushing your teeth,
Yeah.
getting dressed, making the bed,
Yeah.
at least that's a start. Do you know what I mean? Whereas that can propel you to then go on and do other things. But if you're stuck in a situation where you don't have any routine, it's so easy to just not want to get out of bed.
Yeah, yeah, and that's when people become more depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you close the windows, you're not getting sunlight, you're not getting any like proper energy. Vitamin D is so important. It's overrated. I got a
Yeah.
new crystal yesterday. It's over there.
You got
It's getting the energy from the sun.
nice.
It's
Ah.
cleansing.
oh yeah.
It's like the sun gives us energy, and even if it's cloudy and overcast, you need to get out in nature and
Yeah.
Super
like
important.
I hate all of that being inside
Yeah.
stuff. So I can totally understand why you live here.
Yeah.
Listen, like, it's a huge draw for me.
Yeah. So when is the next event?
Well, well, the next event, it was meant to be in a couple of weeks.
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, but luckily, well, not luckily, but I got a part in Emmerdale.
Nice.
So I've got to fly back for a few weeks to film that, and then when I finished that, I got another part in a film.
Really amazing film.
Yeah, it's
I don't
really
even know
cool.
You're
if
allowed
you
to
can
tell
say
us or
it.
not?
Well, I don't know if I can tell you about the films per se, but it's, and I sound really wanky saying that, but I just don't know, because
Okay.
I've literally just found out in the
Yeah.
last few days.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. I think it's since I last saw you, I found out.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, so I finished that, and then I go straight onto a film with Luke Evans where I play his best friend, and so we're going to have to delay the event.
The event. Nice. Well, not nice, but nice.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we are going to do the event
Yeah.
again. But my whole thing has always been, and I think it's, you know, we were talking about manifestation and stuff. I do think, like, since I was younger, I've always said I really want to live back in Barbados and just travel to act, and here I am doing that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that comes down to, since me and Allison have met, like, we both have got each other's backs.
Yeah.
And this is sort of leads on from what I was saying earlier, actually. We both met at a time, at a transitional phase,
Yeah.
where Allison was at the top of her ladder in the corporate world, and in her words, she'd say, you know, I've got to the top of the mountain, but I'm at the wrong mountain. And I was at a transitional point where, you know, I'd had some deaths in the family and was just sort of working out where it is I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And before, I was producing a lot, and producing had taken me away from acting. And I decided to I don't want to produce anyone's projects anymore unless they're really great projects, or unless it's my own project. I'm going to turn that work down
Yep.
and put all my eggs into the acting.
Which isn't an easy choice.
Which
to
is
make,
No, it's
yeah,
not.
it's
especially
not
when
an
you
easy
can get
choice.
some quick
Yeah.
money
And what happened was with that is that, and that was really tough to do, because in one of the trips a few months ago when I went back to England, I went back for an acting gig, and whilst I was there, I got offered to produce a film. It wasn't a great film.
Yeah.
I could see it wasn't going to be a great film, but it was like 20 grand for a couple of weeks' work.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I called Alison up to tell her, and she was like, but you said that you weren't going to do any of those sort of projects anymore, that you didn't want to do. And I was like, yeah, you're right, but it's really good money. And she was
Yeah.
like, yeah, but you said you weren't going to do those sort of things. And I was like, all right, you know what, you're right. And then from that, then I got another acting gig, and everything started to flow.
Yeah.
And
But
I
if
thi-
you had done that job, then
Yeah.
that
That-
acting gig
it
that
wouldn't
came
have
up
happened.
afterwards.
Yeah,
So
I
you're
wouldn't.
following your passion.
Yeah, because
And
I
that
wouldn't have been
leads
able.
you to lead a better lifestyle, the one that you want.
And it actually led me to. It was a commercial, but it was with Idris Elba, and
Nice.
what was great about it was like I didn't have any lines in that commercial, and so we got to set, and Idris was. This is actually a little. Can I tell you this story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really cool
All right. So
story.
basically, just before I got the audition, just before I got this part in this commercial with Idris Elba, I was here, and me and Allison have now done our second event. So this is about 6 months ago or so. We've done our second event together. It was another sellout. We were staying in like an apartment, nothing fancy or anything. We were, because we've been going back and forward, and we were getting a house here, but wasn't ready until now. So we were just staying in this apartment place, but we was with each other. And I was like, you know what, babe? I think that if I was to not, because I've never considered not acting, and I was like, you know what? If I'm out here and it means that I can't go to certain workshops or auditions, but I'm here with you and we're doing these events at the minute, you know what? I think I'm happy with this life. Like, it's not life-changing money, but it's enough money, and I'm happy. Like, I think I could do that.
Yeah.
Fast forward a day, I get this audition.
But isn't that how it always happens?
Yeah.
You let go of your attachment
Yeah.
to something, and then all of a sudden things
Someone
start
can
ushering
circle back,
in.
yeah.
You can't hold on to things with this tight fist. You have to
Yeah.
open your hands, and then
And be
next
open
thing
to
you know,
receive.
Yeah, you have to be open to receive, exactly.
Yeah.
So you fast forward a day, and then this audition comes through, and I normally hate doing commercial auditions because it's so cringe. Like, some of the things you have to do are just really embarrassing, and you're often waiting in the waiting room for like an hour, and especially before lockdown. So I was living in Brighton at the time, so I'd travel like an hour and a half to the audition. I'd get to the audition, I'd have to wait in a waiting room for about an hour, go in for about a minute and a half, do something really embarrassing and cringe, and then that's it, and you leave, and you like
I
look
kind
at
of want to sit in and watch these.
you'd have a field
Oh
day.
my gosh, my
and then
daughter used to do these. So I used to hear sometimes, like, if somebody else was doing a commercial audition, somebody in there is just screaming like at the top of their lungs for like 30 seconds, and then like, okay, your turn's next.
And then you come
Screaming
out
for another 30 seconds.
Yeah, and then you come out and you're like looking at yourself from outside of your body, like with
Yeah.
shame. Like, did I just do this? And then you got that walk to the
Yeah.
tube, then you're sat on the train to Brighton, and the whole time you're thinking about, I can't believe I just did that. And then you don't get the job.
Yeah. So
So-
what gives you the confidence to do what you're doing now instead of those cringe?
Do you know what it is? I think it's, so I've been acting since, so I'm 36. I've really started acting when I was like 14, just with like the National Youth Theatre, which is, it's a really, you audition to get in, but it's not, you don't get paid or anything, you're kids, and it's just like a theatre group, but it's a really respected theatre group. Like, I was in there with Matt Smith, who was Doctor Who, and who else was in my year? Tom Allen, who now does quite a few things. There's quite a few people. It's just a respected thing. A lot of people have come through. Jude Law, David Williams, Judi Dench. A lot of people have gone through there over the years.
Yeah.
And so I've been acting sort of since then. And then when I got to 21, I started doing music videos, producing, and then that led on to doing loads of other people's music videos. Before I knew it, I was doing that. And then my time was split between acting and producing. And then, like I say, it was only recently, like in the last year, where I've said, you know what, I want to get back into the acting. And what my journey with that was.
Was it over last year?
No, yeah, it was longer than the last year.
The last 2 years?
No, the last few years, because I went to LA to produce a film with a friend of mine, and I came back, and the day I got back, my mum called me and she said, I've got some good news and bad news for you. And I was like, what's that? And she's like, well, the good news is I've applied for you to go and do your masters at Central School of Speech and Drama. And I was like, amazing, all right, that's cool, yeah, I'm up for that, because I wanted to get back into doing acting.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't have, I may have done in my own time, but my mum knows me, she knows where my
pushed you
passion
to do
is,
it.
so she just pushed me into it. And I was like, all right, what's the bad news? And she's like, bad news is it's tomorrow and you've got to learn 2 5-minute monologues. And I was like, ah, shit. But that was the start of that, and I think and that was investing time into doing what you enjoy and doing what you're passionate about. If you don't invest time into it, then it's not going to become a reality.
Yeah.
And I think for me, where the confidence comes with it is that I trust my ability.
Yeah.
I trust that I am good enough to do this, and I believe that it will happen. And that led, and I've always had that, but I haven't always had the dedication to it. I've always split my time between producing and acting or something else. And it's only really since when I let go of it all, in terms of when me and Allison met and we were doing the events, and it was just a flippant thing. I was like, you know what, if this is what my life would be, I'd be happy with this. And then I got the audition for the commercial, and the next part of that was, you know, I was in the waiting room on Zoom, and you know, I'd been waiting for about 50 minutes. I was meant to be seen 50 minutes ago. We had something to do. I think it was something to do with the event, or we had something to do. And I was like, listen, babe, let's just go. Like, you never get these auditions anyway. They never, like, it's just, we're waiting here for ages. We're in Barbados.
At the time, obviously, he didn't know it was with the
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know it was that. And Alison was like, no, they're expecting you to be there, so we'll wait, and then we'll do what we need to do afterwards. I was like, oh, all right, fine. 30 seconds later, less than that. Hi, Jazz. So you're there in the waiting room. And I was like, oh, yep, I'm here.
Present.
Yeah. So we did the audition, and then I ended up getting the part, which was really cool. And I forgot about it really. I forgot what the audition was. And then like 2 or 3 weeks later, they called me up. The costume lady called me up, and she was like, oh yeah, so you're the piano player. And I was like, huh? Oh shoot, yeah, I said I could play the piano. And I used to be able to play the piano. But I can't play the piano anymore. And then so she's talking to me, and I'm like, oh shit, I completely forgot about that. Now I've got to figure this out. And
he was going through it, and I'm like, babe, they're not going to force you to play the piano.
I was like, I'm the piano.
I was also going like, you really shouldn't have lied.
Yeah. And then she let slip that, because she was telling me that, you know, you're going to be wearing a fedora hat, linen trousers, all this summery stuff. And I was like, but aren't we filming this in London? And she was like, yeah, but Idris is in Spain at the moment filming stuff on location, and you and him are doing your scenes together in the studio. And I was like, what? What, like Idris Elba, yeah? And she was like, oh sugar, I wasn't meant to tell you, I've signed an NDA, don't tell anyone. Obviously it's been out now.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. And funnily enough, there's actually, this is a really, if I can just tell this story, because there's a few layers to it.
Yep.
So I've been trying to get hold of Idris Elba for a while. We've got mutual friends who've worked together, but I didn't really want to go to them to get in contact with him, because for various reasons I just didn't want to. And all of a sudden, here I am about to act with him on set as an equal. And that's the thing with acting, like once you're on set, like you're all equals, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, this is great. So anyway, the night before we're on set, I'm trying to teach myself piano again. And the things that I used to play on the piano, I could never really read music, but my mum used to play, and she used to teach me things, but she used to teach me like a bit of Beethoven and like Greensleeves and a few of those sort of things. And so they're all quite complicated, but I knew them at the time. Like fast forward 15 years, I've completely forgotten them. So I'm now on YouTube at like 2 in the morning trying to teach myself like Beethoven. And and eventually I give up, because I was like, I've got to be in the studio at like 5:30. It's already 2. I need to get some sleep. So then I get there, and it's a massive studio, huge studio with a big grand piano in the middle and a spotlight on the grand piano, and about 60 or 70 crew all there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. So I get to the piano, and I just pushed, like Idris Elba's not out yet, I pushed the buttons, the keys quietly, just to see if I can just do like a chord or two. And nothing comes out. So I like look around me, I was like, okay. So I push it a bit harder, nothing comes out again. And I'm like, result, it's a fake piano. The art director comes on, because there's a vase on the piano, and he's readjusting the vase. I say to the art director, I was like, it's such a shame, you know, that the piano's not real. It would have been nice to have a little play. And he starts looking at the piano. Yeah, he starts looking at the piano like there's some sort of switch and like playing with it. And I was like, oh no, you know what? It's probably best not to have it, because you know there's going to be dialogue, and the sound probably won't work. But so don't worry about it. Just leave it. But then what happened? This all ties in with the confidence question. When we was on set, so there weren't any lines for this. It's a bookings.com commercial, and Idris Elba's doing his pieces to camera, and I was part of it. Like me, him and this other girl were in this particular scene. And so he's doing his lines, and he looks at me and says something, and it just felt awkward, it felt stale, it felt like something needed to be said. So then I just started improvising with him. And I can't remember exactly how the improvisation went, but it was funny, and then all the crew were laughing. So I was like, all right, cool. And then I said to him, I was like, all right, you know what? In my head, I was thinking, actually, this is like Idris Elba's gig. This is his commercial. I don't want to overstep the mark. So I said to him, Idris, sorry about that. Do you mind if I improvise? And he was like, no, man, that was funny. Do your thing. Let's have a play. And I was like, all right, cool. Next time, why don't you come and sit next to me on the piano and start playing the piano with me, and we'll do the same sort of thing, and we'll just vibe off each other. So he did that on the next take, and then everyone was laughing even more, and some of them were like doing a little clap, and then Idris Elba stood up, he started applauding and pointing it towards me and saying it was all him, this is all his improv.
Wow.
Yeah.
And for me,
You want to talk about boosting confidence?
Yeah.
so for me what that was because I hadn't been acting for a few years. Obviously it'd been COVID, and then before that I was producing, and I'd just done my masters, so I was just getting back into it. And for me what that was I believe in myself, I believe in my talent, and I believe that it is going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And what that did for me was I belong here. I'm on set with Idris Elba, who's a big Hollywood actor. I belong in this space. I know that it put me in this space. I'm not going to freeze up. I'm going to come alive. And the improvisation was great between us in the end. I didn't think they would use it, because the reason I actually did start improvising at first, it was because it felt stale, but I was like, you know what, if I can get some words in here, I'm going to get paid more money. So they didn't use it in the end, partly I think because they would have had to have paid more, and secondly because the advert's only 30 seconds long and we're improvising, and
it doesn't matter why they did or didn't. What matters is the experience you had, what you did.
It was the experience,
And that brings us nicely to a sort of closed but an opening for maybe another catch up. What tips would you give to people for living the life that they want on their terms with confidence as we bring this to a close?
I think for me, sometimes you don't necessarily have the confidence that you need, and it sounds crazy to say fake it till you make it, but I say read as much as you can, listen to as much as you can. Even when at the times in my life where I had no clue which way was going next, I mean, my story had so many ups and downs, but sometimes it's just somebody maybe recommending a book to you. You read that book, and then all of a sudden you've got something that just really, really gives you that next push to go into the next stage. I encourage everybody to take care of your body. You only get one. You know, I've seen so many, my father included, passed away at 51. And I think that's one of the reasons why I care so much about wellness, and I care so much about what other people are doing, because he was morbidly obese when he passed away. And all of the, my family members that have had other issues, it's just like, I really would say what you put into your body matters, you matter, and what you put into your mind matters. So don't think that watching loads and loads of TV inside your house is going to help you, be able to figure out these next steps. I think taking some time out from your typical routine, just go on a date with yourself.
Yes.
Into nature.
Yes.
Do something different, and eventually read, and eventually something will stick, and you will find what your purpose is, what it is that you need to be. But it won't happen just because you're sitting around waiting for it. You have to get after it.
And go after it, take action. That's where things happen.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I would say that this is just like, I say, whatever it is that you're in, like, life is short, and I've got friends who are bankers who love it. I've got friends who are bankers who don't love it. I think if you're doing something in your life that you don't really fully love, because you spend a lot of time at your work, if you love being a banker or whatever it is that your career is, then great, stick with it. But if there's any part of you that doesn't love it, and I would really urge people to pause, to take a pause, and to, if you know what you do love, if you love being a seamstress or making clothes or doing art or making music, whatever that area is, setting up your own business, cleaning company, whatever it is, just really take the time and just put some energy into making that happen. And if you're not sure what it is yet, but you know that you don't love what you're doing, then, like Allison says, read things, listen to podcasts, take some time out on a retreat like yours, and figure out what it is that you love, because that's where you spend most of your time.
Life's too short to be miserable, isn't it?
Life is way too short to be miserable. Life is way too short to be miserable.
And you will develop confidence, I think, from doing those things that you love, that you're good at, that your natural ability is there. Every time you have a small win, it will build your confidence.
And I think that's actually the answer. I find my confidence because I love what I'm doing. How can I have confidence in something if I don't love it? Because do you know what I mean?
You can be good at something. Like, I was good in the corporate world. I was good at it, but it doesn't mean that I loved it. And I mean, I didn't have as much confidence as I think I have today, because I was just finding ways to escape of the regular routine.
Yeah,
that I was
it's
going
creating
through.
that life that you really want, isn't it? And
Yeah,
living
yeah.
it to its fullest. And as you were saying earlier, like sharing love.
Yeah, exactly.
So where can people find you?
Well, we are.
Our company is Vibes on Vibes. It's VIBES on VYBES. And that's the company that we started here in Barbados. That's our entertainment company, our events.
Events
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah,
Experience.
Experiences.
Um,
I'm on Instagram at Allison for Real, so it's
Nice.
ALLISONFORREAL.
and that's all your yoga stuff and your
Yoga,
clothes,
some
fashion.
We'll put all the
fashion
links
stuff.
in
Yeah,
there's some fashion stuff too.
And
Yeah.
you're Jazz Linta.
I'm just plain Jazz Linta on Insta.
What an amazing name.
Yeah.
It's like always people are like, oh, is that your real name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Jazz. His mom is that dope.
I like
Yeah.
it. We'll put all the links and stuff in
Yeah.
the show notes for people to be able to connect with
Yeah.
you. So thank you very much for being amazing people.
Thank you so
and
much,
joining us
Natalie.
here today.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have to keep in touch and
We
catch
definitely
up,
will.
and we'll do something next week. And
We're
I'll
going
let
to the
you
beach,
know.
aren't we?
We'll go to the beach.
Yeah.
Definitely
The
to go
beach
to the
is
beach.
always a good idea.
Yeah.
I think my heart and soul is at the beach.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I want to say before you wrap it up,
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for doing the work that you do,
Yeah.
because like you said, it doesn't even, I mean, I'm sure you're reaching a lot more than one person,
Yeah.
but even if one person can benefit from having the confidence to move forward, to do something else, that is changing lives.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate that.
Thank you for doing the work that you
Oh.
do.
Yeah. We listened to some of your
bless you.
podcasts
Yeah,
already, and they're
yeah.
great.
Thank
yeah,
you.
really enjoyed them.
Good.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Yes.
Everybody that's listening, I'm sure will enjoy this too.
Yeah, I hope so.
So we'll catch up soon. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Thank you for listening. And if you've enjoyed this, please share it with everybody in your contact list. But otherwise, I will see you on the next one.
Perfect.
Bye.
Bye. And that's that.
Thank you, Natalie.
We did that well, didn't we?
Yeah.
We've done a three-way.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.